The Darkside. 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 Another cold and lonely rainy day comes to an end. I have to clear my mind before I sleep, or else I tend to close my eyes and realize there's nothing there but light. I need shadow, I need darkness to help me through the night. The Darkside. The Darkside. The Darkside. The Darkside. The Darkside.
Hello, welcome to another episode of The Dark Side. We will explore demonic possession. Is it a real phenomena or just mental illness gone amok? We would like to know what you think, so give us a call on Skype at wildchild3969. If you have any real life experiences, anything you'd like to add to the discussion, please feel free to join us. But before we get into that, let's hear from our featured fan, Jay Fubar. This guy is truly talented and one of our favorite fans. So stand by for Jay Fubar.
Maybe test tube, but it's take 25. This is not an instructional video. In fact, I'm not sure what the fuck it is. Oh yeah, that's right. It's 3 minutes you'll never get back. You know what I mean? Oh yeah, hey Ron's Corner. Here's looking at you, mate. Lily, who loves you, babe? I'm out.
Hi, America! Hi, hey, she's got a big ass on her. Oh, whoa!
Should have loved me.
That's what I call a thumb drive. Oh, shit. Yeah. There. Ah.
Look down just a little bit.
Hello.
Look into the red.
Hello.
Okay, that's enough. Good.
Oh, look at it. In. And yes, once again, I forgot to turn on my mic. So, start over. Before we discuss some of the facts surrounding demonic possession, I'd like to share my own personal experience with this topic. When my brother and I were young, we lived with a very religious foster family. My brother was prone to outbursts, sometimes violent ones. He was also on Ritalin for ADHD. These people believed my brother was possessed and evil, and therefore would bring him to the minister. It was a Spanish Pentecostal church, to have hands laid on him. They also made us lay our hands on the TV whenever the 700 Club was on to ask for healing. Only in later years was it discovered he was diagnosed with schizophrenia. He heard voices which told him to hurt himself. He was well into his 20s when he was diagnosed. I often wonder if he had been diagnosed at an earlier age, if he may have fared better. He was often in and out of mental institutions. Really help him at that point. I had asked him one time when he had first started hearing these voices. The earliest he could remember was the age of 5. So he had gone almost 20 years, tortured by these voices and feeling that he was evil, instead of just having an illness. So that's just something from my own personal experience. Now the following comes from a book written by Pastor Stephen Waterhouse, How to Differentiate Demonic Possession from Schizophrenia. He actually has a criteria It says schizophrenia can strike anyone, including individuals from deeply religious homes. The concept of devil's heaven and hell is part of Catholicism. Demonic influence is a rare but integral belief of many. And many Christians who research schizophrenia wonder about the demonic. Is my relative possessed? And the New Testament mentions demons over 100 times. The Bible itself makes a distinction between disease and possession, thus Christian theology should recognize the difference. A lot of times, obviously, it don't. At least 6 factors differentiate schizophrenia from demonic possession as described in the Bible. These factors can be helpful when determining if an individual is possessed or has a mental disease. Now remember, this is not my words, this is this pastor that wrote a book. Attraction to versus aversion to religion. Demons want nothing to do with Christ. Conversely, people with NBD are often devoutly religious. Irrational speech versus rational speech. In the New Testament accounts involving demons, the demons spoke in a rational manner. Untreated people with schizophrenia will often speak in nonsense and jump rapidly between unrelated topics. I don't really believe that's true. My brother, although there were moments when he was completely silent and would believe people were talking about him, spoke very rationally about a variety of subjects. Ordinary learning versus supernatural knowledge. Demons in the New Testament would speak through people to convey knowledge that otherwise could not have been known to possessed individuals. Those with NBD or mental illness have no such ability to know facts which they have not acquired by normal learning. Normal versus occultic phenomena. There is an aspect to demon activity that is just plain spooky: poltergeists, levitations, trances, telepathy. And they have impact on others in the room, not just the possessed. The claim to be possessed. Authors who have clinical experience both with demon possession and mental illness believe those who claim to be possessed are very likely not possessed. Demons wish to be kept a secret. Effects of therapy. If prayer solves the problem, then it was probably not schizophrenia. Okay. But there is also a phenomena called mind over matter, where if you believe that it's helping you, it's helping you. Of course, people with mental illness may have moments of where they're lucid and believe that this is helping them, and then in other aspects, all of a sudden they're not better again, and people will probably consider that they've been repossessed, or the demons just went into hiding. So, right now it's time to go to Jim and the Twisted News, and let's hope I can remember to put my mic back on time. Hold on 1 second for Jim. Thank you.
Today's topic begins with a serial pooper in Akron, Ohio. The Mad Pooper, as he is dubbed, struck 19 times since 2012. As far as reports, one victim has been hit 6 times. In this case, as in most I've seen, is someone who has a grudge against someone else. I've known a few people who've actually done this. I think you really have to hate somebody to do this. Inmates do this, spreading anything from blood, urine, sperm, or feces, and anyone who comes in contact with it doesn't know whether they have any diseases: hepatitis, STDs, C. diff, and all kinds of other viruses are spread this way. I consider people like this to have real mental issues. Well, I have to get back to work cleaning up after my Mad Pooper.
Thanks, Jim, I think. So now we were talking about demonic possession. Maybe the Mad Pooper was possessed by a need to poop. If anybody's got anything they'd like to add to this conversation, Please give us a call on Skype at wildchild3969. The lines are open and we're waiting to hear from you. Now we're going to go through some cases of documented demonic possession. There was the case of LaToya Amon's children. January 2014, the Indianapolis Star reported that Police Captain Charles Austin had subscribed to the story of demonic possession told by Mrs. Ammons, a mother of 3 children from Indiana. According to her, dark entities caused her children, then aged 7, 9, and 12, to be observed with bulging eyes, evil smiles, and strangely deep voices. Close to 800 pages of official records documented the case. At first, Captain Austin was skeptical about the strange story, but home visits and interviews he and his team conducted have convinced him that something supernatural took place in the home. It began in November of 2011 when Ammons reported that in the middle of the winter, a swarm of flies gathered by her porch window. That was followed by strange sounds and shadowy figures leaving wet boot prints on the floors. The incident allegedly saw her 12-year-old daughter levitating off the bed, girl only descending after being prayed over by family members and friends, but being unable to remember. Floating later, a headboard smacked her in the head, causing a wound requiring stitches. Amon's 7-year-old son flew out of a bathroom as if thrown, and her 9-year-old son, meanwhile, was seen by a nurse walking backwards up a wall onto the ceiling. That must have been freaky. Eventually, the children were taken away from LaToya because of suspected abuse, but a photo of the Ammons home and a police officer took with his iPhone seemed to lend credibility to the troubled mother's story. A white human-like silhouette is clearly visible in one of the windows. Might be a story you want to look up. It's the first time I've ever actually really heard this one. The successful exorcism of Roland Doe or Robbie Mannheim. It's often mentioned that the real-life possession of whom the film 1974 film The Exorcist is based on actually happened to a male rather than a female, while the pseudonyms Roland Doe and Robbie Mannheim refer to the boy who experienced possession-like symptoms in Cottage City, Maryland in the late 40s. If documented accounts are to be believed, Robbie's Aunt Harriet, who was the boy's main playmate, introduced him to the Ouija board, and upon her death, the strange occurrences began. These included the sound of squeaky and marching feet filling the family home, furniture being moved around without anyone touching them. In fact, a vase was reported to have levitated. A vessel of holy water was said to have smashed itself on the ground, and a picture of Jesus supposedly shook as though something was thumping on it from behind. Doctors, both psychiatric and medical, could not explain the events. Eventually, an exorcism was attempted by Reverend Edward Hughes, a Catholic priest, but a wound requiring stitches was inflicted upon the pastor, stopping the rite. A later exorcism was attempted by 3 Jesuits, one of them reporting the words, "Hell and evil appeared on the wounds on the boy's body." I think we've all seen that in The Exorcist, where there was a part of her stomach that was protruded and it had the word help in it. All in all, the exorcism ritual was attempted 30 times before achieving its goal, Robbie going on to live a normal life afterwards. I don't know how much truth there is to that, or whether it was just his mind manifesting some of these things. Clara Germana Celi and her pact with Satan. In 1906, Miss Celi was an ordinary, although whimsical, 16-year-old from Natal, South Africa, before she began displaying some very strange and frightening behavior. She was recording as being able to understand German, French, and Polish. As you know from the Exorcist movies, this is definitely a key significant thing for those who were possessed, knowing languages that they didn't formally know or have never studied. Even more strangely, Clara could somehow reveal her intimate secrets of people whom she had never had contact with, levitate up to 5 feet, both horizontally and vertically, and display unusual strength by hurling people about. Now, of course, anybody who has been or knows anybody who's mentally ill, sometimes they do have superhuman strength. They have, and anybody that's been taking PCP, those drugs, sometimes they do exhibit superhuman strength. Allegedly, she could not stand to be in the vicinity of blessed objects, and her voice was said to sound like a veritable herd of wild beasts orchestrated by Satan. When the girl's confessor was called in, he revealed that Clara had early confessed to him that she had made a pact with Satan, thus giving the demon a chance to take over her body. Later, though, Erasmus and another priest reportedly drove out Satan from her body in a rite that lasted 2 days, despite the alleged demon's attempt to fight against her. If anybody'd like to say anything about this, I really would welcome some conversation on this topic. Anybody who knows anybody that's been possessed or mentally ill, either one, it'd be great to hear from you. Now we have a psychologist's account of Julia, who supposedly was possessed, according to the psychologist. The term victim might not be appropriate for a woman from New York Medical College, a woman whom New York Medical College Associate Professor... Oh, Goat's calling in. Okay. Hey, Goat, what's going on?
Pretty under the weather, but okay so far.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, honey.
It's okay. It's life. You know that. Great topic. I actually am enjoying this one. Like I enjoy all your shows.
Thank you.
From a Wiccan/pagan belief, yes, there are dark entities out there that can possess. Now, if you watch TV, we have now this big boom of ghost shows, adventure shows, trying to find ghosts, trying to find demons.
What about Lucifer?
Do what?
Lucifer's become a pretty popular show as well.
Yes, it has, and I can't wait for the second season to take on that.
Exactly.
But honestly, yes, I honestly, from my perspective on things, do believe people can be possessed. But it also falls back on mental illness, like how you were saying. It's hard to believe that the so-called church tells us heaven and hell. If you do good things, bad things doesn't happen. But when it's actually a possession, they're the last ones to actually go in to help. You literally have to prove 50 million things to make sure it is not mental illness.
But maybe there's a form of mental illness that we just haven't discovered yet, which can manifest all these things. Maybe it's there's so much of the mind that we don't use. Maybe some of these mentally ill people use more of theirs than we do and have knowledge that we don't have.
It's true, but if you look at true demonic possessions, like you were saying, the person will be able to speak 4 to 5 different languages. My voice is going out.
Sorry.
They will also be able to do stuff normally people can't do. I'm sorry, even with mental illness, if I see somebody going up a wall without help, there is something wrong with that picture. I don't think that would mental
fair
illness.
enough.
Especially with the levitation, like we see all the magicians able to do. If somebody's actually able to do that 5 feet off the ground, something ain't right. I don't think that's mental illness.
True.
It just opens up a whole new wild area that we truly do not understand. And there goes my voice.
Oh, I'm sorry, honey. I'm so glad you called in. Why don't you go have some tea with honey? That might help.
I've been doing that all day. But thank you.
Okay, honey. Thanks for calling in. I will talk to you later.
Yep.
Bye. Poor guy. I hope he feels better. Now, back to this woman, Julia, who was under a psychologist's care. when he discovered that she might possibly be possessed. Julia began to display psychic abilities, including knowing personal details about members of the team. One incident had Julia explicably possessing knowledge of a violent cat fight in one of the psychiatric team members' homes. She commented a few hours after the incident, "So those cats really went berserk last night, didn't they?" When the exorcism ritual was finally performed to relieve Julia, the room grew unbearably hot, and she began to speak recognizable Spanish and Latin, although she apparently knew only. Julia also screamed in pain when sprinkled with holy water, but remarkably would have no reaction when ordinary water was secretly used on her. It was also recorded that at one time she levitated 6 inches in the air for approximately 30 minutes. As of last reporting, Julia has not been successfully cleansed of the strange force. And of course, many of these could be attributed to various forms of mental illness. Many cultures still believe that unusual behavior may be symptomatic of mental health problems as caused by spirit possession, especially in some less developed areas of the world, where such beliefs are still important features of the local culture. Interestingly, beliefs about spirit possession are not simply used to try and explain the effects of psychopathology-related experiences, but are also regularly used to control and coerce individuals. So they may tell them that they're evil or they're possessed by a demon, and they have to go through all these steps in order to get them to obey. An interesting study by 4 psychologists in 2012 investigated the prevalence of Sen, a local variant of spirit possession in youths aged between 12 and 25 years in war-affected regions. They compared youths who had been abducted and forced to fight as child soldiers in the so-called Lord's Resistance Army, a group that has waged a long and brutal campaign to overthrow the government of Uganda, with youths, and they compared these with youths that had never been abducted. Sen is a form of spirit possession where the ghost of a deceased person visits the affected individual and replaces his or her identity. These doctors reported that the spirit possession was significantly higher in former abducted child soldiers than in those that had not been abducted. They also found that the reports of spirit possession were related to trauma exposure, such as sexual assault and being forced to kill, to psychological distress and higher rates of suicide, post-traumatic stress disorder. They also concluded that in many of the areas of the world where beliefs about spirit possession are widely held, such beliefs are a standard consequence of psychological trauma. So it is possible that some of these people that we believe are possessed or evil may just be severely traumatized, and that in combination with mental illness causes some of the behaviors that we see. Right now, it's time for everyone's favorite part of the show, and that's Ron's Corner. Oh, first Ron's calling. Hey Ron, how's it going, buddy?
Hey Lily, how you doing?
Good, honey, good. So what do you have to say about demonic possession? Are you evil?
Well...
Should we even bother to answer that question?
Well, I don't believe that, people can be possessed by an imaginary friend to be one way. I believe that if you're going to do something, you have motive to do it. It's your decision. Saying that, I'm influenced by this or that, I think it's a scapegoat. So it's kind of, to me, when people, they say like your evil Satan thing, I'm more like, hey, you believe in Santa Claus. I think it's just a scapegoat. If you're going to do something, you're going to do it because that's what you want to do.
Yeah, but what about people that have been known to have been seen levitating off a bed or speaking in languages that they've never been exposed to?
I was raised in like the church setting, and that's what made me like not want to be involved with religion. And I've seen when those people get crazy, and they'll talk, and they're just all like, no, 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 and then like they're like convulsing and stuff. And I'm just like,
yep,
what the
faith
fuck?
healers.
I'm like, you're on some hella good drugs.
Yep, I was exposed to that when I was young. My brother and I went to a Spanish Pentecostal church. Now here I am, a young white girl who doesn't speak Spanish, and all these people.
Here's a shot for you, Lily.
Yeah, it was very much a shock. People passing out, going into convulsions, speaking in tongues, and of course I had no clue what was going on. So that was an incredibly scary experience for me.
It is, and I think it's crazy when it's the religious people, because they'll be like preaching this way of a certain life, and then they'll go off the deep end, and then they're like, I'm going to ask for forgiveness.
Yeah, like that just wipes away all the bad stuff that they did.
Hell yeah, and I'm like, whoa, I want an imaginary friend to fucking wipe away like my feelings, because I thought about it. I'm like, you treat people how you want to be treated. I have my own beliefs, but I don't go out there in public and say, hey, all these Christian, Catholic, Mormon, whatever religion you are, that you're wrong. But I don't know. Whenever I get these other religions preached at me or basically proposed to me, like they want to sell me on it, I look at these people and they look so empty.
Do you think, because I kind of feel this way too, especially like if you heard me talking about my brother, that maybe religion in certain circumstances, especially when it comes to mental illness, does more harm than good? My brother was made to believe he was evil when he was just mentally ill.
No, I agree with you totally. And if I really thought about it, I mean, I'm not perfect, but in general, I think most people would think I'm probably evil.
Except those that know you. We love you.
Yeah, but I've done some fucked up shit, and I'm just like,
we all have.
Yeah, it might be wrong. You shouldn't sleep with like a chick and then a half hour later sleep with her neighbor.
Or her mother. Whichever.
I got a story to tell you later, but back onto the, because this is the topic, but I think, people have a choice. It's how they are. If someone wants to be evil, that's their demeanor.
True, true.
I don't think that anything really, says you're going to be evil. Yeah, there are things that probably influence people, but to scapegoat something like religion and say that's, that whole thing, the Satanist or being possessed, no, I don't believe it. I think it's just people way off their rockers.
I agree with you, honey, 100%. And guess what? Now we're going to go to your corner. So let's see what you had to say this week.
All right, take it easy and have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye, Ron.
Bye.
Now for Ron's corner. Everybody hold on to your hats.
Thanks, Lily. Welcome to another edition of Ron's Corner. I actually made another video prior, and it was too long, so I'm sorry. Cheers.
10 days ago, today could be number one. Now, the LA Rams came from Cleveland once upon a time in 1946 and played in LA for just about a half a century with some great players like the Dutchman, Norm Van Brocklin, and Bob Waterfield. Here's Roman Gabriel.
Good chaser.
Deacon Jones, the great Deacon Jones.
So, I'm on the Fuck Your Vagina I Got Managed to Do tour. That means I'm just gonna fuck a bunch of bitches in a short amount of time, not give a fuck. It's what I do. Fuck it, right? Yeah. Cheers.
When they moved to St. Louis, there was the owner, Georgia Frontieri, and now they've gone back to Los Angeles. And now we'll make the first pick as the new look Los Angeles Rams. The trade that you all know about, but exactly the way it goes. The Tennessee Titans had the number one pick. Just that Texas Mariota last year.
You guys all take it easy. Hey, back to you, Lily.
1-15. Rams get a 4-6. But of course, usually the Titans will talk to them later.
Thanks, Ron. I'd like to hear how your tour goes. I hope you don't get shot at by anybody. Okay, so I do hope you enjoyed our discussion today. Maybe it gave you some food for thought, especially about what might be real and might not be real and might just be mental illness in regards to demonic possession. And thank you for joining us for the Darkside show, and we'll see you next week. Next week our show will actually be on a Saturday due to the fact that Sunday is Mother's Day, and I will be visiting my mother. Next week our show is going to be on porn, so make sure that you tune in for that one. And have a great day. Thank you.